just love that song. And you know, after last month's song, I particularly love it because it has such a long ending, such a predictable end to it. You can just kind of flow to the end with it. It's very nice. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, last Sunday, as you know, we canceled our Sunday service due to an impending overnight snowstorm in the forecast. You remember that, right? But since it was the last Sunday in January, and January had 5 Sundays, we could say that last Sunday was a bit like Prince Harry, a spare. And we had 4 great Sundays together to start this new year. That said, I do want to share a few thoughts with you that came to me Sunday afternoon while I was having my snow day. Now, most of us suspect that the news reporting about events around the world and nationally and locally these days, with its high drama, is likely intended to be more commercially entertaining than simply informative. And since many of us are seeking to live our life in fearless positivity as often as we can, then most of us don't make a habit of fixating on the dramatic and violent news reports with their accompanying dramatic and violent footage that is repeated over and over and over again in the news media. Still, inadvertently, we can be drawn into dramatic weather reports that often include fearful weather terminology like cyclone bombs and epic generational Arctic outbreaks and storm trains and atmospheric rivers and winter whiplash. Hang on to your neck. Dramatic languaging that is likely deemed by sponsors to be commercially entertaining. And since a picture is worth 1,000 scary words, there's accompanying footage of severe weather, intense winds, tornadoes, blizzards, and floods causing damage and injury and death. Phew. Now, while it's easier for us to turn away from those news reports about dramatic and violent happenings caused by people, we pay attention to all the weather because local weather is coming up next. We want to make plans for our day or our weekend or our week based on what the local weatherman or woman has to say, even though what they have to say is often the worst case scenario for what we can expect weather-wise. I mean, how often do we hear that an impending storm might not be so bad? How often do we hear that it may harmlessly dissipate and with no danger or damage at all? Relax. Enjoy Mother Nature. These days, weather reporting, like the rest of the news, is contributing to fear in a world that is already on overload. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, had to get it out somehow, but because if we get drawn into what's often referred to as weather porn, our prurient curiosity may cause us to become fearful of Mother Nature. If we want to live in fearless positivity as often as we can, it's essential for us to keep in mind that in every season, no matter what effects we humans have had and continue to have on climate change, Mother Nature herself remains an unchanged expression of the beauty and benevolence and love of our Creator expressing in creation. If we keep that in mind, then wherever we are, any moment in any season will remain calm and safe in that spiritual truth and guided by divine light. All right. So the last Sunday we were together, I asked if we were all still experiencing the symbolic newness of this particular segment of our timeless journey that we and the rest of the world are calling a new year. Or if things have come up in our mind or in our life that took the shine of 2023 before the first month was even over. And though I asked that question, we didn't actually talk about how we might answer it for ourselves. The simplest way is for us to notice how we're feeling about ourselves and our relationship to life and with life right now. I mean, even if there was a bit of tarnish last month, do we have our shine on now, right now? As we sit here in the sanctuary or wherever we are, do we feel happily at home in our body? I mean, even if there's a bit of physical pain here and there as we sit with our eyes open and we look around, are we feeling a mental and emotional sense of well-being right now? Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, "The conditions for our happiness are already sufficient. We only need to allow ourselves to be in the present moment, and we will be able to touch them." But sometimes we get stuck on our way to the present moment, and we're not able to touch the conditions for our happiness, which in truth are unconditional. One of the sticking points that can get in our way, on our way to feeling happy now, is the idea that our happiness was easier to achieve in the past when conditions were better for us. I mean, when we were younger and our physical body hadn't racked up so many miles. When the one we knew we'd love forever was still with us physically. When the world seemed to offer more possibilities for our participation in it and more desirable conditions that inspire us to participate. And then there's all those sticky thoughts about some future time when things will be better for us and the world, and it'll be easier to be happy. When we feel healthier somehow. When those projects that are weighing us down right now are completed. When our to-do list isn't longer than our I've done it list. When we have more money, more freedom, and more time, we'll be happier. But we'll miss having the time of our life at this time in our life, which is the only time in our life, if the past or the future seem like a happier time. Thich Nhat Hanh continued to write, "That is why the practice I have arrived is important. The realization that we have already arrived, that we don't have to travel any further, that we are already here can give us peace and joy. So the question for us to consider this morning is this: how willing are we to accept that we've arrived at the very point in our life, this present moment, right now, where we can just let ourselves be happy? Where we don't have to travel any further to another place or time in our life before we feel peace and joy right now. Children and animals are more than willing for life to be happy right where they are in the present moment, no matter what happened a few minutes ago. Now, we've all been around a dog who, for reasons it's unable to explain to us, has chewed on our book, or tore up a pillow, or got into the food cabinet and ate a lot of our food along with its own. That dog will look at us, tail wagging, with a full-on willingness to let bygones be bygones, to forget about that mess and have some fun now. And children are the same way. Even when they seem hell-bent on having a tantrum, 9 times out of 10, they don't want that noise any more than we want to hear it. For example, I was in the market the other day, and as I turned and walked into one of the aisles, I heard a little girl who was probably just a little over a year old, whining loudly, fussing dramatically as she sat in the child's seat of the grocery cart, about halfway down the aisle. And since the cart was heading towards me, she was seated looking away from me. And her dad was there, had his hand on the cart. She wasn't going anywhere, but he was intensely focused on something on the shelf. And so the little girl didn't see me until I was right next to her. And just as she was starting into another high-pitched whine, and her face all scrunched up for dramatic effect, she noticed me. And I smiled at her. And just like that, mid-whine, no hesitation at all, she smiled back, as if she'd been waiting to do it all along. She wasn't going to let the past wine-filled moment interfere with being happy in the present moment. And as I kept walking and looking back at her, we kept smiling at each other and waving at each other until I turned the corner and went down the next aisle. Which brings us to the title of today's talk, which is actually the same title as last week's talk: An Unexpected Intruder. How often are we as flexible and allowing in the present moment as a dog or a child? How often when we're upset or angry or just in a funk and someone calls us on the phone, when we hear that happy hello, how you doing, do we join in the happiness just like that, mid-funk? How often instead do we fill the caller in on our misery? Because as we know, misery loves company. Yet even when we're in a bad mood, every now and then, a positive thought can slip through the cracks and enter our awareness like an unexpected intruder. When that happens, Even if that unexpected thought is such a good idea, one that would move us closer and closer to something that we've been wanting to do or experience or create. How often do we let go of that negative mood and focus on the good idea as if we've been waiting for it all along? How often do we stay with it until we're uplifted into a positive vibration of excitement and happiness? How often instead do we ignore it or toss it out because it wasn't invited to our pity party? On the other hand, ever been in a good mood? Having a great time doing something or doing nothing at all? And some negative thought unexpectedly intrudes on our good mood? But rather than simply ignoring it or tossing it out because it wasn't invited to our happy place, how often do we grab it and chew on it like a dog on a bone? Where did that negative thought come from? What does it mean? Just when I thought I had this spiritual happy thing down, up comes some thought from hell I wasn't expecting. I talked to a friend in Washington about that very thing, and she said, one of those unexpected thoughts can keep me awake all night. When we're in a good mood, a negative thought can slip through the cracks and enter our awareness for many reasons, or for no reason at all. It may come up because we're ready to give it up. And we're in such a high-flying place in that moment that we're not going to let it get us down. And so we're in the perfect place to just let it go, as if we've been wanting to do it all along. Or it may be a negative thought that's just passing by and has nothing to do with us unless we allow it to. We're free not to give a negative thought the time of day, let alone make it our own, if we choose not to. Eckhart Tolle wrote, "Thought wants to suck your full attention. Here's an exercise to do. Don't take your thoughts too seriously. Thoughts are like plankton that float and drift in the ocean of consciousness. Every thought in every moment, negative or positive, fearful or loving, sad or joyful, floats in the ocean of our human experience. Now, certain thoughts are more obvious to us when we're vibing either high or low, but they're all available to us for us to choose. The Way of Knowing tells us your happiness depends on your decision to choose only loving thoughts. Oh, they're there. And we get to choose them. We get to decide which thoughts we'll make our own. We get to choose which thoughts seem most like us and who we want to be and how we want to be in the moment we're in. We can let the rest go. We're free to let any unwanted thought float by without a second thought. That's why Muji wrote, "No thought has any power. You have power. And when you identify and believe in the thought, you give power to the thought." Rather than happiness being an unexpected intruder in our life, when we decide to choose only loving thoughts, we give power to love in our life. And happiness becomes an expected guest of honor in every moment. Namaste. All righty. Well, this is the time of our service when we get to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for being there this morning. Thank you for finding us later in the week. Just thank you. Thank you for your energetic support of the Life Enrichment Center and our message of love. And thank you here and there and everywhere for your financial support so that we can keep doing this and doing this every season for as long as we can. And that part is always up to each of you. And so if you're wondering how you can support LEC, well, the mystery is over. Because our treasurer, Dr. Jamie Phillips, can tell you exactly how.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, before I start telling you how you can contribute, I just have to let you know that we've been informed by Samaya out there in Connecticut
Hey, Samaya.
that today is actually National Weather Person's Day.
Well, happy day.
Yeah. How ironic is that?
I think Samaya is in LA now.
Oh, is she? Okay. Hi there. You're up early. Okay. If you would love to contribute to the Life Enrichment Center, you can do so right on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Life Enrichment Center. You can go to our website, lecflint.com, and hit the donate button. You can go to PayPal. Our PayPal email address for that is lec2512@gmail.com, and you can donate to us there. You can send in a check, which you can send to our new mailing address, 321-294, well, it's P.O. Box, 321-294, Flint, Michigan, 48532.
I just want to say one more thing. For those of you who don't know, Samaya is a news person. She was here at Channel 5 News. She does the news out in California now. So, you know, I love you, Samaya.
Okay, and continuing. If you are here in the sanctuary, we'll have an offertory, and our gratitude receiver will come forward and take your generous offerings. And while we listen to Marcia Allen, Jason Phillips, and Larry Mandeville doing Grateful. Thank you.